now we're going to do an algorithm for the product sum, which is to write a function that takes in a special array and returns its product sum. So basically, a product sum is taking the depth of an array and taking the sum of that and multiplying it times its depth. So for example, if we had an array with all integers, like something like this, then that has one level of depth. So basically we would just add up all the integers. But if I have an array that is nested inside of this array, right? So inside of this I have another array, then this would be a second level depth. So we would take the sum of this and we would multiply it times 2. So the product sum of this would be the very first element plus the second element plus the third element, and then 2 times the sum of this element. So if inside of here I had another array, then this would be 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 2 times the sum of this, which would be 4 plus 5 plus 7, and then 3 times the sum of this this array right here, because it's 3 levels deep, right? So the depth of the array, like how far it's nested, makes a difference in the product sum. So we're going to take this array right here and we're going to find the product sum, or we're going to find the product sum of any array that we pass to it. So the way that I did this is I used the reduce function. So the reduce function or method is a function or a method that works on arrays. So it's an array method. And so here, if we have an array and we call reduce, reduce is going to take in a callback function. And that callback function is going to have 2 parameters, an accumulator and an element. And the way that this works is if I give an initial value for my reducer, then I can take each accumulator is basically the sum of, or the way it's working now, the sum of all of my elements. If I have, you know, an array with 3, 4, 5, 6, then the element represents the value of each iteration, right? So the element value at the very first one, it starts at 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and 7. The accumulator is the accumulation of this. So we're summing things. So our accumulator is just going to be a sum. So it's going to be accumulator is going to equal to the past value of the accumulator plus the element. So if our accumulator starts at 0, then the very first time through our loop, we're going to have our array, we're going to have 0 plus 3, right? Which is going to give us 3. And then the next time through, we're going to take the past value of our accumulator, which was 3, and we're going to add that to the current value of our elements as we're looping through this array. So that would be plus 4, which would give us 7. The next time through, the value of element is 5. So we would take our past value of accumulator and we add it to 5, and so on and so forth. That's how a reducer works. So we're going to take this and we're going to use that to loop through this array. But every time we loop through, we're going to test to see if our element here is an array. And if it is an array, then we're going to recurse. We're going to call the product sum again, right? Okay, so here we're going to start off with our array. So we pass this function an array, and then I have a default value on it for the multiplier. So when we first call it, we don't have to worry about a multiplier. So here, every time through, we're going to check to see if our element here is an array or if it's an integer, right? So there's a function that we can use called array.isArray to check to see if a value is an array or not, right? The data type. So we're going to have an if statement, and we're going to call the array.isArray method, and we're going to pass to it the element, right? So we're going to do some logic here. This is where we're going to recurse. But let's just go ahead and do the else, because the else is going to be more simple. And in the very end, every reducer, you're going to have to return something. So we're going to return the accumulator, right? Whatever the accumulator is. Okay, so here in the else part, all we have to do is we're going to take our current value of our accumulator, and we're going to add it to the current value of the element. So accumulator plus element, which we saw before, right? So in the very first time through this array, we have 5, and our past value of accumulator is 0. So what we get is we get 0 plus 5, right, which is equal to 5. The next time through, our element is 2, and our past value of accumulator is 5. So we get 5 plus 2, which is equal to 7, right? The next time through, our element is actually an array, so we have to create some other logic, some new logic. So what we're going to do here is we're still calculating the accumulator. And we want the past value of the accumulator, which in this case is 7. And then now here is where things get interesting, right? We're going to recurse, and we're going to take the result of that recursion, and we're going to multiply it times this multiplier. Where our multiplier, our multiplier starts off at 1, but this is a new array, right? A nested array. So we need to multiply this, actually not times 1, but times 2. So we're going to take our multiplier, and we're going to add 1 to it, right? Which is going to give us 2. And we're going to multiply that times the sum of this. Well, how are we going to get the sum of this? We're going to recurse. We're going to say product sum, and what we're going to pass is the element. The current element as we're looping through this is 7, -1. So we're going to take our element, that's going to be the first value, and then we're going to take our multiplier, and we're going to pass to it, again, the multiplier plus 1. So our new multiplier is going to be 2, not 1. The very first time we call this function, when we first initiated everything, the multiplier was 1. Every time we call a recurse that's nested, our multiplier is going to get bigger. So let's look at, and that's basically it, except for we need to return the value at the end, right? We need to return that back to the calling function. So let's look at how this is going to work out. And that's basically all of our code. So we first call the product sum, and what we get here is we get 5. So we get 0 plus 5, which is going to give us 5, plus 2, which is going to give us 7. And then we hit this part right here, which is an array. So at this point right here, we're going to have to call our reducer, right? We're going to have to recurse. So we're going to call product sum right here, and the return of this is going to give us the value to which we are going to add on to. So here we're going to call product sum, and what we're passing in here is going to be 7 and -1, and then this time the multiplier is going to be 2, right? So this is going to be multiplied. So look at our equation here. We have the multiplier, the current multiplier, which is going to be 2. It's going to be 1 plus the 1, it's going to be 2. So 2 times the product sum of this, right? That's what we're looking for. So let's figure out how we can calculate this, and then we can move on, right? So this right here is we're going to recurse, so that we're going to call this function again. This time, we're going to go through the reducer again, and our value is going to be, so we're reducing through each element. So our value here is going to be 7. So we start off with a 0, the accumulator is 0, plus 7, right, which is equal to 7. And then our past value of accumulator is 7. We're going to add on the next value, which is -1, which is going to give us 6, right? So the value of this right here is 6. So we can take that and we can replace that with 6, right? Because we're going to return the value back to its calling function. The calling function is right here, and so that value gets replaced by 6. So now we're going to go on. The next value in our array here is 3. So we're going to add on 3. And then we're going to add on this element right here, which is an array. So we're going to take this array, and our equation says to take our multiplier, which is the value of 1, add 1 to it, and multiply it times the product sum of this value right here. right? So this value right here, and then the new multiplier is going to be 2. So now we just need to get the result of this. So let's take this and see how we can get the result from this. So now we have this right here, which we're going to go through starting our reducer. Our reducer starts off at 0. We're going to add on to it 6. And then now we have a new array element, right? So we're going to have to add on the multiplier plus 3 plus 1, which is going to give us 3, times this right here, which is an array. So we're going to call product sum again. And this time we're going to pass in negative 13 and 8 as the array. And the multiplier this time is going to be 3, right? So I'm just going to put this inside of here. And the multiplier is going to be 3. So now we have to go do another calculation, right? So here we need to go and get the result of this right here. So now we're going to start our recursion, our reducer all over again. So now we're going to start off with the value of 0 as our accumulator, minus 13, which is going to give us a negative 13, and then plus 8, which is going to give us a negative 5, right? So the result of this right here is negative 5. We're going to replace that here, which is negative 5. And so the sum of this is going to give us negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15 plus 6. So we have 6 minus 15, right? 6 minus 15, which is going to give us a negative, I think this is, so 6 plus 3, and then 3 times negative 15, right? So 6, so this is going to give us negative 9, something like that. All right, I think that's it. My math might be off, but we're gonna take this right here. So this is the result of this right here, and this is the call from here, right? So now we're going to take this. Now we have the result of this, which is going to be a negative 9. I think my math is off here. Okay, so then now we can add everything up, right? So we have 7 plus 2 times 6 is 12, plus 3, plus 2 times negative 9. I think it's supposed to be a negative 10. 2 times this, which is going to give us a negative 20. Right? So we have 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 12 is 22. And then 2 times, I think my math is off. This should be this should be a negative 12, right? So this is going to be, it works out, it's just my math is bad. So this is going to give us a negative 12. But that is the gist of it. So if we run this right now, then we get product sum. Then let's just print this out. So we'll do let result is equal to this, and then we'll do a console log of result, and what we should get is a 12, right? So we get 12. My math is just off, but that's basically stepping through it. So yeah.